Hello, guys. I want to say a wonderful welcome again to those that made it to this year's Zuri training, a training sponsored by Ingressive for Food and, of course, in partnership with Zuri, right? So, yeah, I am a front-end mentor, and today I'm going to be talking about what front-end web development is. In this video, I'm going to cover how the web works, what is front-end web development, what front-end web developers do, challenges in front-end, technology stack in front-end web development, the tools needed for you to get started, why it is important and / why you should do it well, right? That is why being why the front end of a website is important, and then why you should um, design this front end well. And then if front-end web development is a good career choice. I'm sure everybody wants to know if they're making the right choice in terms of their career. So yeah, we're going to be considering that part too. So yeah, so of course it is front-end web development. So it is normal that I discuss about how the web works. For me to explain how the web works, I'm going to be explaining key terms like client, browser, server, HTTP, web page, website, and web app. Now, let's dive straight in. What is a client, right? So clients are the typical web users' internet-connected devices. For example, your computer connected to your Wi-Fi or your phone connected to your mobile network, or web accessing software available on our devices, usually like, let's say a web browser, like Firefox or Chrome. So these are clients, right? It's just really your device that is connected to the internet. So what is a browser? Basically, it is fully called web browser. And of course, it is also referred to as internet browser or simply browser, just the way I typed it there, right? So a web browser is an application software for accessing the World Wide Web or local websites. When a user requests a web page from a particular website, the web browser retrieves the necessary content from a web server through the URL and then displays the page on the user's device. Now, it is important for you to note that a web browser is not the same thing as a search engine, though many people often confuse both of them for the same thing. It is not the same thing. A search engine is a website that provides links to other websites, right? You use it to search for things. However, to connect to a website server and display its web pages, a user must first of all have a web browser installed. So yeah, a web browser is different from a search engine. Examples of web browser are Microsoft Edge, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Apple Safari, and so on and so forth, right? One example of a search engine is Google. So you can't call Google a web browser. Google is a search engine, right? So yeah, a web browser and a search engine is not the same thing. So now, what is a server? Servers are computers that store web pages, sites, or apps. When a client's device wants to access a web page, a copy of the web page is downloaded from the server onto the client's machine to be displayed in the user's web browser. So we can just compare this server to let's say a restaurant now, and we have the cooler of rice, right? So we can look at that cooler of rice as the server, right? And then we look at the we can look at that cooler of rice as the server. So anytime a customer wants to eat rice, they go to the server, serve some rice, and then give it to the customer. So the same thing too. Our websites, web pages, and applications are stored in the server. So anytime we want to see it on our browser goes there, fetches it, and then displays it for us. Now, what is HTTP? HTTP simply means Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It is an application protocol that defines a language for clients and servers to speak to each other. So remember, the browser fetches what the browser fetches the web page, website, or web application from the server. Now, how does the client, that is the phone, how does the client communicate with the server? The client communicates with the server using HTTP. So that's the language for communication between the client and the server. So when the client is asking the server for particular details to be displayed on the screen, the client is communicating with the server using HTTP, and the server is replying back to the client using HTTP. Now, what is a web page? What is a web page? Yeah. So a web page is a single document that is written using HTML and is accessible via the web through the internet using a web browser. Note the keyword. It is a single HTML document. A single document. Yeah, a web page is a single document written in HTML. Now, what is a website? A website is a group of interlinked and well-structured web pages that exist on the same domain. That is, these web pages are grouped together in one place. When I mean domain is just simply a location in the server, right? Now you need to understand something. A group of web pages is not the same as a website, right? A website is well structured and interlinked, and they are all stored in one place. While a group of web pages is not necessarily structured, is not necessarily interlinked, and is not necessarily stored in one place. It is just a group of web pages. So a group of web pages is different from a group of is different from a website. Now, what is a web application? Website, web application. What's the difference? A web application is a software program that exists on the server and runs using a web browser. An example of a web application is Facebook. Other examples include YouTube, Google Mail, online spreadsheet, and so on and so forth. Web applications are actually more complicated than websites. Yeah, web applications are based on user engagement, and almost all their content is from the end user, right? So yeah, they are similar to desktop applications, right? So web applications are actually more complex than websites. When it comes to websites, we have static websites and dynamic websites, right? Static websites are websites that displays the same thing over and over again anytime it is loaded. It is what the developer uploaded to the server that is loaded each time you visit the website. While a dynamic website, from the name, it is dynamic, it is more advanced, right? So there are some things that changes over time. For example, a website that then every day you log in, you have the current date. That website can be called dynamic, while a web application is way more complicated, right? A web application, it is more user engaging. For example, Facebook. You can't call Facebook a website. You call it a web application. It is way more complex. And yeah, front-end developers need more skills to create web applications than when creating websites. So how does the web work? So yeah, first, the browser figures out which server holds the content to be displayed and heads over to that server and demands for it. The server then responds by sending all elements like images, scripts, and so on and so forth. The browser puts all this together and displays a neatly formatted web page or website or web application, depending on what the developer built, right? So yeah, that's how the web works. So it's just the client, right? The browser and the server. So in between is an internet connection. Yeah, so they have to be internet connection for the browser to fetch details from the server, right? So yeah, so the browser just fetches anytime you search for something, anytime you load something, let's say you load a website, the browser quickly runs to the server, of course, speaking their language, which is HTTP, and then asks the server, can you get me this? Can you get me this? Can you get me that? The server replies, yeah, I can get you this. It sends scripts, tags, images, because yeah, these are what we use in building these websites, right? It sends this information to the browser, and then the browser just arranges everything the way it's supposed to display, and then displays it for you, which is the end user. So yeah, that is how the web works. So now that we know how the web works, what is front-end development? Who is a front-end web developer? And who did I work with? Right? So front-end web development is the development of the graphical user interface of a website through the use of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so that users can view and interact with the website or application. Yeah. So when we load load a website, the things we see, the pictures, the images, the things we interact with, the form we fill, and all those kind of stuff, all these things are what we call the front end. And in order for us to build this front end, we use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Yeah, so that is front end web development. Now, who is a front end web developer? A front end developer is a person that builds the front end portion of the website. When I mean front end portion of the website, it means there's a back end portion of the website, right? So a front end developer is the one that builds the front end portion of the website and web application. And web application, right? So a front end developer builds the parts that users actually see and interact with. A front end developer creates websites and applications using web languages such as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to allow users interact and access the website or web application. Now, who do front-end developers work with? Front-end developers work with, of course, the back-end web developer and the UI UX designer, right? So as a front-end developer, you can be good at designs. You can be able to design your whole website yourself. Yeah, that's cool. But we also work with UI UX designer. These designers, their duty is just to design everything, and our duty is to use code to make these designs a reality. Now, what's the work life like of a front-end developer? Now, a front-end developer's work life revolves around building the front end, right? So in a day, a front-end developer might be updating a company's web page, creating new layouts, or creating an entirely new page or an entire new application for a company. The front-end developer might also be making sure that a website is working correctly on mobile phones or tablet devices. It could also be that the front-end developer is busy throughout the day, cleaning code, ripping out old code that doesn't need to be loaded, right? So yeah, everything still revolves around the front end, making sure things work the way it should work. What are the challenges? So yeah, in the world of development, right, when it comes to tech, there are challenges normally in tech when it comes to debugging and all that. But in addition to that, a front-end developer must stay up to date. That is the major challenge. That's the major challenge, right? In front-end development, things change quite a lot compared to back-end development. Front-end development, things are always changing, CSS, HTML, upgrade, and everything. So as a front-end developer, one challenge you might face is keeping up to date. And yeah, you have to face this challenge and fix it well, because you have to stay up to date. New browsers are coming every day, new devices are coming every day. As a front-end developer, you have to see how your website can work with all these devices and can work with all these different browsers. So you have to always stay up to date to make sure that what you're working on or what you have worked on has not gone out of the market, if I'm correct by using that statement. Right. So yeah, technology stack in front-end web development. So I've mentioned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript before. Yeah, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are basic web technologies, right? They're basic web technologies. HTML is actually the one responsible for helping us create the UI elements on the screen. So when I mean UI elements on the screen, elements like our paragraph, lists, paragraph lists, buttons, and so on. HTML is what helps us create these elements on the screen, while CSS is a set of rules that helps define the style of a website, including things like fonts, spacing, and colors. So HTML is just like the skeleton, right? CSS is like the skin and the clothes, right? And then JavaScript is like the blood that flows in the body to make the body alive, right? So yeah, HTML is just a skeleton. You can imagine it will just be there. The basic things, the necessary things are there, but it is not really, really fine. Skeletons are not fine after all. Why CSS makes this thing fine? When you put on your clothes, you have skin, you look fresh. So right. So when we design this, when we use these elements to create what will appear on the screen, we use CSS to make these elements appear very, very beautiful. For example, when we have let's say we create a website with our paragraphs and everything, and then we use CSS to add colors, add spacing, make our fonts finer. The website start looking more beautiful and attractive. And then where does JavaScript come in? Like I said, JavaScript is like the blood in the body that makes the body active, right? So JavaScript helps us undo events that are happening on screen. It helps us send and receive data from the backend. So for example, let's see, for example, a website that has a registration form, right? This registration form can be created using HTML, right? Now, this registration form can be centered and designed using CSS. Now, when the client fills in the form, the data can be stored and retrieved using JavaScript. So you see, these three work together to make the website a very responsive one. So now, when it comes to building websites, it often involves a bunch of repeated tasks, right? So that is where frameworks and libraries come in. Now, framework and libraries serve the same purpose, which is helping us build application faster, but there's a difference. For example, React is a library. Frameworks include things like Vue.js and Angular, right? So now, what's the difference between a library and a framework? Well, libraries, actually, framework force our application into a structure. So applications built with a particular framework end up having the same kind of structure. So let's say I build an application using Vue.js. I build an application using Vue, right? So these two applications end up kind of looking alike because this framework forces my application into a particular structure. So websites built with the same kind of framework kind of look alike in terms of structures. While libraries do not force our applications into structure. They just help us by providing codes that we can reuse, right? So libraries and framework are very, very important when it comes to building applications faster. A library that you can learn is React. You don't need to learn all the libraries and frameworks before getting started, right? You can start right away with React and then learn others on the go. React is very, very popular. So many people start with React, right? So yeah. When it comes to the technology stack, we also have version control systems. So as a front-end developer, you're going to definitely be needing Git and GitHub So Git just helps you manage your work, track your progress, and so on and so forth. Why GitHub from the name GitHub? It's an hub where you get to save all this, save your files, your project, right? That Git is helping you manage. So what really are the tools to get started? Once you have a laptop, yeah, every developer definitely needs a laptop. So if you're going into any kind of development at all, front-end web development, back-end web development, full stack, or any one at all you want to do, you definitely have to get a laptop. So once you have a laptop, you just need to install VS Code and its extensions like Prettier to make your code prettier, of course, and then extensions like Lifesaver to enable you code better, to enable you test your HTML document better. So once you have a laptop and you have VS Code installed, you're good to go. You can get started as a front-end developer. Just start coding and learning right away. Now, don't get it twisted. VS Code is not the only code editor that you can use. There are other code editor that you can use. You can use Sublime, you can use Notepad++, you can use Notepad, anyone, depending on what you want, right? So the only difference is that VS Code make things faster and easier in the sense that VS Code have snippets and so on and so forth, right? But when it comes to things like code editor like Notepad, you have to type in every single thing yourself. Now, using things code editor like Notepad is good actually because it helps you master your code. It helps you really know everything about your code from beginning to end. But it is slower when it comes to when compared to VS Code, because VS Code just makes things very, very easy for you. So why is it important? Why is front-end web development important? And why should you do it well if you're a front-end developer? Well, the front end is the digital representation of a company, of an individual, and an organization. It is the bridge between a customer and a product or service. It can also be seen as a manifestation of somebody's dream or idea. So when there's small problem on the front end or even spelling mistake, it can have drastic implication for the brand. This is because the front end is what allows the user to use a particular service or website or even contact the particular individual that owns that website. So when a website is hard to use, it actually tarnishes the image of the brand. It repels customer. Yeah. So even me personally, if I go to a website and I find it very, very difficult to do things, I'm going to give up and just run away from that website. Let's say I go to a website and I'm trying to open an account with them. I'm having so many issues. The website is so difficult to understand. It's so somehow, it's not responsive. It's not, man, I'm going to give up, guy. I'm going to give up. I'm not going to want to work with that kind of company, right? Because I already have a bad impression, right? So as a front-end developer, you have to understand that the front end is important, right? The front end gives the user satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And a website works where definitely the company gets to have more customers and more people using that website. But when a website gives headache, we have people running away from it, and then it spoils the brand, right? And it can even be emotional because for some people, it's actually the website or the front end is actually a realization of their dream, right? An idea that I've been thinking about, and then you built it up for them, and then it's not having issue. It can be emotional for them, right? It can be painful, right, for some people. So you have to understand that as a front-end web developer, so many things are important. So yeah, you have to learn to build your websites well. So is front-end web development a good career choice? Well, the thing is, because customers want to access websites and apps that are fast, responsive, and easy to use, businesses in almost every industry, from healthcare to education to financial services, seek out great front-end developers who can make their user experience a winning one. So yes, front-end web development is a good career choice. It is in demand by some top-tier companies like Amazon, plus the average pay base per year is quite good. All in all, it is a position that is in demand. It is a position that pays well. And then, remember what I said, front-end developers need to be up to date with informations, right? So you get good pay, you are highly, the career is highly in demand, and then you get to learn every single day. So yeah, front end is a good career choice. Now, don't get it twisted. Other web stacks, right, are still good career choices. Back end and the rest are still good career choices. You just have to pick what really works for you, right? And yeah, front end, of course, is a good career choice. So yeah, thank you very, very much. I hope you learned a lot from this lecture, and you know what front end really is right now. So yeah, thank you very much. See you next time.